Życzymy Państwu przyjemnej podróży.
Poczekamy zatem. Czy teraz? O, poszło.
You want me to try?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah?
Yep.
I think it worked. Dobry wieczór Państwu.
Good evening,
My name is
ladies
Sylwia
and
Chutnik,
gentlemen.
I will have the pleasure of leading this meeting with Tatiana Țîbuleac. We have only 1 hour, so we think that this meeting will be sort of quickly, and it will be in English. So if everyone don't understand this language well, of course we have the translation, so you will just have to pick the phones, I think. It's over there, so you can just take it. And there will be a time for you, the audience. We will have a time for questions or reflections about the 2 books that had been translated in Polish of Tatiana. First, we know it for now, I think 3 or 4 years. And the first novel called Lato, gdy mama miała zielone oczy, The Summer When Mom Had Green Eyes. And of course the second one, Szklany ogród, The Glass Garden. This is a book that was published in Polish last year. And first of all, I would like to congratulate you on the Natalia Gorbaniewska Audience Award, which you received yesterday in Wrocław as a part of Angelus Award. I think it's really necessary to say about this award because it comes from the audience. And we as a writer knows that this is really important part, that we are not writing only for ourselves. Sometimes, yes, I think.
Never, I think.
Never. We always think about you. But it's really great that you have the award from the literal critics and all of this group of people who are really into the culture stuff, but on the other hand, it's really important to have the audience with you. It's like, you know, on the hip-hop video clip when you have everybody from your background. So it's important, and I think it's also some kind of a powerful for the next work. We will be talk about, of course, the Glass Garden, but I think it's also important, and I think it's also a kind of paradox that we are speaking in English. It's not our mother language, and
Not even a father language.
not even a father or a brother. What kind of language it is? And for you, personal, but also on this Glass Garden novel, the issue of identity, nationality, the language are very important. So I think that we are part of a kind of a performance around it. So this novel can be read on many levels. And the first concern the situation of political transformation and tensions between the countries of so-called the former Soviet Union, and those that wanted to maintain their independence in any way. And today it's also very important a day for the Moldavia. They have the president election, but also a referendum on joining or not the European Union. But you are not live now in Moldavia. You are now with your family in Paris. Do you still think about your?
I don't have to think. My mother is still there, so I'm very attached to Moldova. So I left, but I never left. So
Yeah, this is the question.
It's very important for me. It's my country. It's where I grew up, but also I think that I'm not that kind of universal writer who writes wherever, whatever. I do write a lot about, the sensibility of my writing comes from Moldova, so I am quite attached to my country, to that space in general, to Eastern Europe, I think, in general.
What does it mean, attached? That means that every day you scroll the news from your countryside, or you're attached by using the word, I don't know, mother language, and this is the language that you spoke at the beginning.
I think it's not only scrolling for news. That I do because I used to be a journalist like you, and you can't start the day. Once you are a journalist, you always start the day looking for news, and obviously this morning the first thing I looked how many people went to voting and
how many.
Well, it's validated, let's put it like that. So we are on a good way. But when I speak about this attachment, I think it's also my writing, the things which move me, the things which I like. Probably I would describe a winter or an orchard or a quince or a food in a certain way, because I grew up there and those things speak to me. And probably in my books, people find a sort of it's the specific which makes a writer, I think. So everyone who is reading my books knows that I'm coming from that part of the world, and that I think it's important. It's in our DNA. It's something we know, and I don't try to run from it. In fact, the older I get, I embrace it more, because my first book, as you know, it's very from everywhere and from nowhere, it's happening everywhere. The characters are actually Polish, and they live in UK, and then they come to die in France. But the second book is really happening in Moldova, and by Moldova I say that it can be in any ex-Soviet countries, because partly it was the same reality, but of course I lived in Chisinau, so I wrote about Chisinau and my city and my yard and my neighbors, and yes.
It was a kind of, I don't know, micro world inside this huge political and transformation systems, also based on a difference between small societies, because in the small town, in the small place, you had like lots of national identities, also minorities. I thought that it's also interesting that these people were more or less between something. We have the Jewish Yiddish word called tzvishen, and that means that you are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So these people, this character of your book were the same. Is it because it was a story about the time of transformation, or the political one, or it was a transformation in this society level?
I think it was both, because you said at the beginning that this book can be read in more than one way. So it is true, because you can read it as a simple story of an orphan girl, but you can read it as a metaphor for the country. And at the beginning I was saying that it's not that, but I think it is that, and it's very clear that it's something about Moldova as well, not only about that little girl. But I'm very glad you say about this generation in between, because this is how I called it, and I think that my generation is exactly that. It is a generation in between. Imagine that in 10 years, when I was becoming an adult, like the character in my book, everything we knew has changed. even the country changed, you know, from an ex-Soviet republic we became independent, the alphabet changed, the grading system in school changed, the money changed, lots of things changed, and we really felt that it's always at the border, at the crossroad, that something is going to emerge and something is going to crash. And that happened, and those years, the years when we formed and we became adults, and I think I really have this feeling until today. I'm always expecting that something will change and no one will pay for that as well, because that was really something very clear in Soviet Union, that if you lost or did something, if something bad happened to you, it's no one's fault, it's just, it happened. So yes, I think that this in-between feeling, it's very important. I like talking about it, as you can see. Yes.
So maybe we can just talk about it more, because there's another word that describes one of the characters, the main character, Łastoczka, and but it's not about the identity. But I also like the words, not only its fiction, but also like between, yeah. But also the queer means like the somebody who is not into mainstream, somebody who is outside of the whole society. It's not only identity of your sexuality. It's also some kind of a feeling that you are not belong, and the question is, you want to be a part of the mainstream, or you prefer to be on the outsider look. And I had this question all the time when I read your book about the Łastoczka. This little girl should be in front of everything, in front of the changes, as a part of the huge society, or it will be better for her to be somewhere between maybe, or somewhere else, not in this mainstream. What do you think about it? Is it the queer or the being between is a part of something that is I don't know, a kind of a change for you, or it's better to be somewhere else?
Well, I think it's important to place this story where it is written. It's a story written in still communist and communist republic, and her queerness, as you call it, it wasn't sexual queerness. So in that time, we didn't have that topic so developed. Even so, I have a queer personage in the book, because Tonia is queer, and I really wanted to have that, because the young generations, when they speak about identity, they don't speak so much about language or nationality anymore. For them, these are less important. They have other things which are more interesting or more painful, and that is fine. And I'm always happy to have this dialogue. But this particular girl, she was in between because of other reasons, because she didn't have an identity. Her parents were Romanians, they fled to Romania. She was brought up by a Russian woman, and she was learning Moldovan language in school. So for her, it was just so much happening from other points of view that love or that kind of identity was not her thing. But Tonia was, and I think that Łastoczka, her love for Tonia from this woman in the book, it's sort of natural, because she feels that Tonia is different. And I think that she says at one point in the book that biedna Tonia, poor Tonia, she was born in the wrong time. She didn't know how to love properly, because in that time it was not aggression towards queer people. It was a sort of we considered them unhappy because they were wrong in the society's eyes. And Łastoczka, in a way, she was wrong as well, because she had everything to be happy, but she was still not happy. And this kind of constant, fight within her, it was something which was making her unhappy and looking for something else.
That's why I used this word, because I thought that maybe she was also born in a wrong time. But on the other hand, the second of these levels in this book is the issue of social advancement and the possibility of changing one's position thanks to, of course, hard work. Every time when you came from the poor family, you know that you have to work harder, and maybe the things will change. And on the other hand, the ambitious, it's also a part of this neoliberal way of thinking, that you have to work hard, otherwise, you don't even have a choice to be a different person. And what about Łastoczka? Is she still on this between this social advancement and the way of the transformation of the political system?
Well, I think that all my characters are always between in all the books. I like and I seek this ambiguity in people. I don't think I am very good at writing, creating only very good or very bad characters. All of them are sort of failing on one side or another. Łastoczka is happy, I think, in life, because in a way, professionally, she became what she wanted. She went to Romania in the book. This was her dream. But on the other side, she has a sick kid, and she's a single mother, and she's still not loved. And then she sees that her relationship with this adoptive mother, she's becoming a bit like her, because the education you receive doesn't go amiss. So she became a bit of Tamara Pavlovna. She hates herself for that, but in the same time she loves her for what she did for her. So I think it's like in real life. I mean, it's rarely when I meet really happy people or only unhappy people. So in a way, this is a sort of happiness. This is the happiness I always use in my books, this kind of quiet happiness, I call it. I never write spectacular, I never have happy endings, and I'm always asked why all your characters are, I don't know, in car crashes, they're dying, they have disabilities, they not loved. I don't know why. I just feel that I'm better at that, probably. But I'm making sure that all of them, at least for 5 pages in every book, they're getting some happiness.
Yeah, it's a kind of a Slavic happiness,
Yes,
all of the memes with the Slavic face.
It's true. But this is how I was brought up, like be careful, if you're too happy, something bad is coming. So, I don't feel guilty. I think that they're doing fine, my characters.
Okay, but do you have lots of questions like, why your novels are so sad?
I do. Sometimes.
And what is the answer? Because I had the same questions. So
maybe you should answer.
Yes, we can just choose one of the answers.
I think that they're not sad. They have a sort of lighting. The sadness has some lighting still.
Where is the light?
I don't think they're all unhappy. I'm sorry to say that. Look, in the first book, it was clear from the beginning that the woman is dead. So you can't be more unhappy than that. She died in the first page, right? So I'm being
she has
honest.
an alibi not to be happy.
Yes.
Okay, and what about the others?
They all live.
So we should be thankful that we are.
They all live.
Okay.
Yes, it's funny. It's true that there is a pattern of this kind of happiness, unhappiness. But maybe this is because I am like that a bit. I can be extraordinarily fascinated by something, and I see everything in that light, and then that thing disappears, and then everything seems not colored for a while, but then something else appears. And I think that I am a bit of my characters every time. I'm being Alexia, I'm being the grandmother, I'm being the mother. It's not like I'm describing someone completely foreign to me. I'm always leaving something of me all of them, because basically I have like 3 characters every time, so I don't have to invent so much. But I think that the writer can live many lives through his characters, so I'm on their side.
Yeah, I also like this way of thinking about to be a writer. I don't like actually the questions like, is it autobiography? Is it a part of your life, one-to-one? Of course not.
No, because you never answer faithfully for this question. You know, I mean,
No.
how many times a writer...
We will not answer these questions. They will just,
I was
don't know
actually,
this.
in my second book, I got this question and I was not annoyed with it because it is a valid question. I wrote not an autobiographical book, but I wrote a lot about my own childhood in this book. So people asked me, are you Vlastochka? And I am, but I'm not only that. Because writing about her, I wrote also about the country.
Yes.
And I couldn't not write about certain things which happened in the country and give it to her. But that doesn't mean that everything what happened to her in the book happened to me in life. So of course, for instance, the neighbors are mine, the cat was mine, the feelings were mine, the school was mine, but not necessarily, I don't know, every unhappiness in that book or everything was necessarily about me. So I don't consider this an auto-fictional book because I don't like auto-fiction. It can be more about you or about not about you. But you see, sometimes you just create a character and you can't avoid giving him things from your own life. And then what is this then? How do we call that?
Yes. My mother used to know everything from my book, and she just, had the idea that describes every part that it came from my life or her life or our family life. But she's the only person who will just, fix all of this true crime stuff. Okay, so we are talking about Łastoczka, and you said that she's quite happy. Okay, but I would like to ask you about the beginning of the book, because we have a kind of a motto there, and I want to speak about the anger, because it's said like I would just not translated in English. Słyszę od was, że jestem sentymentalną suką. Pogryzę was do krwi. I heard from you that I'm a sentimental bitch. I will bite you until you bleed. So it's not about happy, nice person. Is it because of this inside monologue and the part of the book when Łastoczka is really mad and angry about everything, especially her parents, I think? Or is it because of the whole, I don't know, society or this historical moment of transformation?
I think she felt betrayed, on many levels. And again, this motto is probably a motto which was written with her voice of a woman of 40, 50 already. Yes. Because we have her since she's 8, and then she's older, and then there are parts of books which are written by her now at this age, and she's a doctor, and we already established that she has this sick child, and she's a bit drunk as well. She's drinking a bit too much. Everyone is drinking in my books always, and I think
again Slavic.
Yes, and I think that there is an anger, but it's not a book written on anger only. Even my first book, which is even more angry, even there the tone slows down sometimes, and then it softens. You can't really write a book only so intensive that it's only anger, because you need to breathe sometimes and to stop. But again, I think we have. Again, I'm saying my generation, but maybe I should be a bit more selfish and say me. We do have this kind of feeling that we have to fight for everything. You know, if something comes too easy, we think it's a trap. So sometimes we can't just be happy because something makes us happy. We always think, why is this happening to me? Why is this good thing happening to me? Or do we need to wait for, what do we have to pay for this? What's wrong? And I think that what is she doing is, you know, she's just how she is. She's a woman who knows that everything you know today can disappear in one night. I was asked once what was one of the worst things which happened to, you know, to my parents, for instance, in the same context. And probably many bad things happened to them and they didn't really tell me. But I remember the day when they learned that all the money they had disappeared. And they still disappeared. I mean, no one paid them back. And I was imagining today, imagine that everything you owe, everything you gained, everything you, for years and years, with sacrifices of holidays, of clothes, of nice things you put aside. And then one day you go to the bank and they tell you, sorry,
you have nothing.
You have nothing. And we experienced that. And some people just got mad, they just lost their minds, because imagine this situation. And today, I mean, I live in Europe, so if I tell this to my kids, they will say, no way, someone will compensate, someone will give you something instead. It's not possible, but it is possible. And of course, when you have this once, when you've experienced that, you are ready for everything. There is a reason why we can be so, you know, in bad mood, Eastern Europeans, because things happened very often to us. I remember another thing to my grandparents, for instance, when this Suhoi Zakon came in, you know, when this was prohibition for alcohol, they were producing wine every year because they had a vineyard. Everyone in Moldova has a vineyard. And it was the moment when some delegations would come and just open all your wine barrels, and all the wine would spill, you know, in your place. I don't know how to say it in English, where you keep the cellar. And imagine this was the work of these people. The whole year they worked, and then everything you did, they just spill it, and you can't do anything. That is things. And of course, even worse things happen. I mean, look in Ukraine now. We are talking about wine, but look in Ukraine now. People are dying every day, and we still can think about holidays in another country. So I think that we don't have to invent too much in our books. Things are there. I think the trauma and the anger is there within.
So maybe it is time to introduce Tamara Pavlovna, the mother-in-law, the Russian mother, the woman who take the Vostochka. And speaking about the experience that in every minute you can, you know, lost everything, your life, but also your money, your friends, your country, your language. And this is a matter that you are living into the system since the beginning, the Tamara, but also Vostochka. What about these two women and the relationship between them? And another question, Tamara was the first in this book that you were that you create as a protagonist, or Vostochka?
Vostochka, I think, because it all came from this little girl. I needed a character which will sort of put the book together, you know. So I needed a child who grows up and then lives and then becomes who she becomes. The relationship between them, it's of course a relationship based on love and hate, because Tamara Pavlovna is not a bad woman. She adopted Vostochka because she wanted to have a daughter, and she wanted to leave her all her money and all her knowledge, and she did what she knew best, right? But she's a greedy woman, a greedy in a way, not stealing, but working.
Yes.
So she's working and she's teaching Lastochka to do the same things. For Lastochka, maybe that is exploitation, and it is, of course, because maybe she doesn't need the same things. But in the same time, she understands that she can't blame Tamara Pavlovna for what she's doing, because this is her way of life. And in the other way, she gave her a family. A family, she would be in the orphanage. Her life wouldn't be better. So this girl is caught between these two feelings, having a family, having money, having a house, going to the school, having all these new clothes and friends, but in the same time doing things she hates.
Yes.
On the other side, Tamara Pavlovna's relationship with Lastochka is a bit. She wants from her sort of humbleness, and she wants from her sort of love, at least, to say thank you for what you're doing. And then she sees that she's not playing that role so well. Probably she feels betrayed as well, because she thinks that maybe I could have another daughter, I could have picked another kid, I could have done better. So I'm doing everything for her, and she's not giving me anything back. She's choosing the other language. She wants still to find her parents, and she feels that I'm not good enough. It's something which happens a lot in life.
Also in a motherhood, generally.
Yes, and I think this is an interesting conversation. If the element of being adopted would disappear, how this relationship would be in the book? Do we aggravate everything because we know that she was adopted? Imagine it's her daughter. She would have treated her the same, because this is the only way she knows. But I think this struggle for knowing who she really is, for knowing the parents, knowing her roots, this is for Lastochka more painful than picking up the bottles and becoming a sort of being exploited by Tamara. I think that for me the drama is there, because maybe this is the drama I know most.
Yes. So the identity, another again, we have this subject inside of our conversation, because I think it's really necessary to know that it's not only about the language and nationality. Of course, it's also an important part of the book, because at the beginning I thought that we have to start with the map that, okay, this is Moldavia, the Romanian country, we are here, the language are... because it's really complicated, especially after 89 or perestroika or
it's
other transformation. But at the same time, this is also a question about identity as a mother, as a child, as an adopted child, but also, and this is my another question, it is a matter of economical level. Because Tamara and then her daughter are, I don't know if we have a good enough English word, butelkara. That means that they are, taking the glasses, especially from the alcohol, I think. And that's why you have the title as a kaleidoscope of these colorful bottles. And this is not the good beginning of every life, not even for adopted child, but generally. You have to, strictly came from the beginning of this social levels. And the question is why you did so hard way for Lastochka.
I don't think I did. I didn't do it on purpose. So let's think, what is Lastochka's life, and how is it different from other kids' life in those times? She is going to school, and her adopted mother is really letting her study, because she believes in studies, right? She's fed. She has sort of clothes. She's allowed to choose her friends. This gathering of bottles, it's something it disgusts her, and she doesn't want to, and it's hard, and maybe other kids are making fun of her. But in the same time, in a normal family in that time would be a lot of work at home as well. Especially if you go to the countryside, you will find out that lots of kids were asked to work at home because this was normal. So it wasn't only studies, but they would take care of animals, they would cook. A girl of 10 in the countryside, even today in Moldova, it's not like she's going to play with dolls only. She had to work because that was how life it was. And today we look at this with different measurements because we advanced. But at that time you didn't even think that it was so bad because everyone was doing it. Because if I think about my father's generation, for them it was really bad. Sometimes they didn't even go to school because they had to work on a field. So I don't think that this exploitation is the worst thing which happened to Lastochka. She fought so maybe at the time, but it wasn't the worst. I think it's an important component in this book is about her femininity, how she's becoming a woman and what was women's role in those times. Because women did everything. They also were mothers and cooking and cleaning, but they also all had jobs. I mean, I remember my mother, the fact that she had a job like my father, this didn't mean that she didn't do anything else in the house.
Care work, yes.
So I think that this kind of very strong female community, it was something which marked me, my childhood. I'm often asked, where are the men in this book? They're very busy, I'm saying. They are always working. Women also work a lot, but they are there because women were on each level. They were the ones who educated children, they were the ones who took care of school, of food, of winter, of they were there, and it was hard. It was a harder life, and the only difference, not the only, but one of the differences from now is that you couldn't really say, I'm not doing this, because no one would understand you and you would be banned. What do you mean you will not do it?
Who will do it?
Also, women would be the first ones who would say she's a bad woman because she's not doing that. You didn't need men to tell you off. You had women for that. So this is the society I grew up with, and it is a certain hardship for the girls, knowing that they are planned already to make children, to cook, to if you have a sick kid, like in the book, you are basically alone. The husband, I think, left, and that happened a lot. A sick child meant that it's first of all a mother's responsibility rather than society's responsibility. If you have depression, it's your problem. If you are being raped, it's probably your fault. Everything was a sort of woman's fault, and women were expected to be very strong, an example to everything. So I think this is an important topic in all my books, because I think that also in my first book, where the mother has a child who died, and no one ever helped her to go through her grief, to assist her in her grief. And then because of that, she's ignoring her second child. But perhaps she just needed help. And we are not used to ask for help in our part of the world. Now not anymore, and I'm very glad that the young generation were more.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so, and I see so, and I'm very happy to see that, because the girls are luckily brought up to know that it's not always their fault, and it's not everything their role.
So you think about this generation of our kids, but what about our generation? Because the process of emancipation...
For us, it's too late.
It's too late?
Everything is too late. No, I mean, I think there are now more occasions to have these discussions, and I think that these discussions are very important, whether you started from a book or from a film or from a therapy session. I just feel that women didn't talk for a long time, and now they can. And they should. And I mean, I don't necessarily think that literature has a role. I don't really believe in this. I think literature doesn't need to teach you something, but literature needs to provoke you to think or to feel. But if for someone writing a book or reading a book means also this therapy or questioning or answering or getting a sort of revenge, be it. I mean, if this is also a way of writing and discussing it.
I think sometimes it could be something like a mirror, and it's not that it's mirror for yourself like narcissism use, but the mirror of the society, of the problem, and also about the emancipation, because I'm really into this subject, especially the care work, and I know that I had a feeling that our generation, the process of changing, thinking about themselves, you know, all of the self-care and discourse of mindfulness and, you know, be yourself, etc.
Better version.
A better version of yourself, always, every day. But speaking about the care work and the motherhood, there is something that is really regressive, a kind of a backlash. And
you're talking about Poland or in general?
The West side, maybe, even US. But the new generation of our kids, I think it's a different situation. But maybe because they are, you know, at the beginning of think about the family, of the place inside of society, you know, this classic question, who do you want to be in the future? And maybe for us, I don't know, it's too late, or maybe we are too tired of thinking also about the emancipation. I don't know, it's a kind of an open question, but it's really important also to have the reflection about it. And I think that's it's really inside of your book, especially on this women word, very inside of the small streets where Lastoczka and Tamara live. I just saw the time, and we don't have enough time, actually. So I think it's your time, it's your part of this meeting. You, the audience, if you have any questions for Tatiana, or you want to have the reflection about her books, it's the floor is yours. We have the first person. We will just wait for the microphone. You can ask in Polish, in English. We will translate it.
Thank you very much. I'd ask in English. I'm Ukrainian, and I really love Moldova and Romania. And sometimes I think that if Ukraine fall under Russian rule, I'll probably be dead. I'll become a soldier or just kill myself, because I don't see myself existing without Ukraine. It's the whole of me. Do you ever think of Moldova falling under Russian rule again? And what kind of book would you write, and with what feelings? Despair or anger?
I mean, I thought about this again this morning, to be honest, because we have presidential elections today in Moldova, and we have as well a European referendum. So if we decide not to go to Europe, we might very well go back to the book, you know, 50 years ago. So, of course, we do think about the war. When Odessa is bombed in Moldova, we can hear it in Chisinau. Nearly all my friends have a sort of emergency bag being prepared, because Moldovans probably know better than everyone what is to have a war. And we don't have a war in Moldova now because Ukrainians are resisting. That's very clear to us. I mean, for us, this is not just news. I think that we we do have these discussions all the time in Moldova. Unfortunately, with the war, we talk less about identity because the main discussion is about peace or war. But I think that partly this war came back also because we forgot about identity. And I talked yesterday about this as well in Poland at this prize you mentioned before. I think that we do have a short memory in Eastern Europe. We didn't talk about important topics like deportations, Holodomor. We didn't speak about these things. We forgot about communist crimes or preferred not to talk about them. And the young generation, they don't know about these things because no one told them. You know, I know about these stories from my grandparents. I didn't write them. I didn't tell them to my kids born in Europe already. But then when a country doesn't have a memory, a collective memory, it does the same mistakes. So this is what we see today, because this war in Ukraine is also including in the name of identity. So it is important to speak, and I think not only intellectuals, but we should speak about this in schools, we should speak about this everywhere, to be honest. We spoke a lot about Holocaust, and it's good that we did, because now people know a lot about it, and when people see the swastika, they know that this is bad, but if the people see the Serpi Molot, I don't know how to say it with this sickle, they think it's cool, and they still wear t-shirts as if it's something cool. It's not cool. Communism is not cool. Communists kill people. Communists deported people. And I think that we should talk about this, yes.
Thank you. Does anybody wants to ask question? So my last question for you, more general, but on the other hand, I think that after these topics, maybe it will sound more like, you know, lifestyle. But I will just ask you about it, because as a writer, I know that for some reasons people want to know my other me, not only the artistic and creative. And what about your identity as a writer? Because you was a journalist, so you worked in the media, and it's more or less non-fiction level. And you're still really into this kind of thinking about word, or now is it closer to you to be a writer, more on the art way?
I'm afraid I don't have another me. I admire a lot writers who are able to create their worlds, you know, fictional worlds, who populate them with wonderful, interesting characters and ideas. And I never did that. I can create atmosphere, but I don't have enough patience to create a world. I think that maybe not necessarily because I used to be a journalist, but I'm closer to people than to this fictional, let's say, world. So I am interested in people. I write about people. I feel that I understand them, and I think that I'm best in my writing when I write about, you know, conflicts, drama. Small things which create small lives, basically. But I write nearly all the time with the voice I have already. And my next novel will be probably the closest to who I am now. I don't even have to change anything, you know, maybe the name. And it's not about me. It's just that the character, it's very close to my age, to the way I see the world. This might be changing at one point, but I'm now feeling well writing like this. So. And question from writer to writer. How do you feel when you are traveling all the time? And what about your writing? Do you need to have
free space, free mind, just to have I don't know if you write by hand or by computer, but to be in your home? Or is it good to be around with lots of people, because this is again a part of your creative process?
I don't travel so much, but I do have periods when I travel a lot. Now I'm for 2 weeks on the road, which is a bit much. I don't wait for sort of higher inspiration when I write. It's true that sometimes you are in the mood and then you write good things fast, but sometimes you're not in the mood and then you write, but you know that they're not so good. I think it happened that in the last 2 years I was not very productive because I was focused on other things, on my kids, on my family, on other family problems. And I hope to finish my book this year, I hope, but maybe this is just a hope. I write everywhere. If I'm ready to write, I don't need a special place or a special music or a mood. I just sit down and write. I used to be more disciplined. I used to be writing as I was a journalist. Like, you know, when you're a journalist, no one is asking you, are you inspired enough to...
Because you have deadlines.
You have a deadline, and you know, if you are not ready, you are fine. With books is a bit different, and I think I had this blockage after my second book, and I didn't do it for a long time, but I hope to get back to it. So, yeah, that's my plan, to finish this book this year.
We are waiting.
Thank you.
We have a question, and just wait for a minute for a microphone.
Hello. That may be a very silly question, but I'm a linguist, so I'm very interested in the language. And why do you say Europe when you refer to France? I mean, it's something Americans do, but I find it very interesting that you're Moldovan and you somehow refer to Europe when you say France.
For me, France is Europe.
Yeah, it is, but I understood that when you say it, it seemed to me at least that you say, oh, my children were born in Europe.
Sorry, I live in France for 15 years.
Yeah, but I understood that you don't. Sorry, maybe that when you say it, that when you talk about Moldova, it seemed to me like you don't include Moldova in Europe.
Because it's unfortunately still not in Europe. I mean, geographically you can wish, but politically we are still not there. So, I mean, I don't know how to say it so I can be correct, but Moldova is not in Europe. There are people who live according to European values in Moldova, yes, but we have the desire, but not the benefits, you know, so we are still fighting to be in Europe.
I see. I just ask because I think in Poland we would never do that, you know. So that's...
Do what? Sorry. You are in Europe, in Poland.
I think even if we refer to communist times, we would always, you know, it's very strong feeling that we would say we are Europeans. And if anyone says, I don't know, even if people say you're Eastern Europeans, some people get, you know, offended because we're actually Central Europe.
Well, I think this is a luxury, and this is a big distinction, because we never really felt Europeans, as in, you know, if you think about Eastern Europe, the Poland for Western Europe is the last bastion. I mean, it's Poland and then it's the rest. Moldova, Romania is in European Union. Moldova, we still are not there, even if we feel like, and even if we speak like languages, and even if our kids have perfect French in school and everything. But when it comes to migrating, and when it comes to finding a job, and when it, you know, it's the passport thing, it's the geography, it's visas. So we are dealing with bureaucracy, and we can say that wishfully we are in Europe, but we are not that far yet. So it's, and then if I'm thinking about our past, I would struggle very much to say that being born in Chisinau 40 years ago, I was born in Europe, you know. I was born in Soviet Moldova, and it took some time to forget that. So we can probably use different words in order to make it more appealing, but the reality is as it is. And again, I'm saying that we're having a referendum today at home, and I don't want to be right, and I want us to speak tonight saying that we all voted for that, but there are some very nostalgic people in Moldova who would still go back to Soviet Union, and then it's a sort of dissociation when you say that you are European, but you still, you know. I hope I answered.
Yes, thank you very much.
We have a time for one more question.
Maybe a little bit of what-if question. If you would be raised in a world that provided happiness instead of trauma, would you still be a writer? Or if so, what would you write about? Unless, what would you do?
It's a bit arrogant to say that only in Moldova we had proper dramas to become writers. I think that, you know, everyone has their own memories, and the contrasts are everywhere. And actually, when I was writing this book, I was thinking that it's going to be a very, very small interest for it, because who is going to read it? Maybe people from Romania, perhaps few friends or family, my mom 3 times, and not more than that. But when I have it translated in many languages now, and when I travel, I can see that there are identity dilemmas and identity struggles in many countries in the world, and not necessarily very different from how we grew up. And that makes me think that it's just lots of things are similar in many countries. It's just that it's the story and how we say it. And I don't think that only people who were unhappy can become writers, and not only unhappy people can write about sad things either. I can't write when I'm sad, for instance. I need to be half happy to write. I need to have a peace of mind, because when you are, I'm talking about myself, probably when I'm struggling in something, I think only about that thing, not about writing. And again, writing is a very intimate thing, right? I mean, different people write differently. How do you write, Sylwia? Let's finish on this note.
I'm also a trauma writer, so... but yes, I agree with you. If I will have enough problems around, and speaking about problems, I mean like the, you know, everyday problems, it's like I can't do art. It's too much. But sometimes the art or the reading is a kind of escape from a normal life. So it depends. But usually it is only for myself. You know, the escape for, you know, doing little things, write poems, but not for the others. So I have to have a calm inside of me to write, even about trauma, of course.
Thank you, Sylwia, for this meeting. It's nearly time to say goodbye.
It's a normal meeting with the journalist. The finish is her. Thank you very much for the questions, for that you are being here, and of course, Tatiana, thank you very much. And once again, congratulations for last evening award, and we are waiting for the another book. The time is clicking.
Thank you all very much for coming
Thank
today.
Jedzą kanapki z kawiorem.
Nadzwyczajna kasa.
Obrażanie dziennikarzy telewizji polskiej.
Chodzi o działania polityczne.
Przygotowanie ofiar dla pedofilów.
Für Deutschland.
TVP Info. Włącz się na nowo.
Radość, nadzieja, życie, wyzwanie, pasja, pamięć, zaufanie, pokój, jedność. Słowa tworzą świat. Polskie Radio. Źródło wiarygodnych informacji.
Plany biznesowe powstają z marzeń.
Dlatego nie ma dwóch takich samych firm. Jedni chcą działać na całym świecie. Innym cały świat mieści się w dłoni. Sukces biznesu to nie tylko jego wielkość, ale też szczęście, jakie przynosi ludziom. PKO Bank Polski.
Uwielbiam szycie w sieci. Wczoraj podszyłem się pod wnuczka, wieczorem uszyłem intrygę na apce randkowej, a dziś planuję grubymi nićmi szyte oszustwo z promocją. Tak się szyje.
Na oszustów są sposoby. Zapoznaj się z poradami ekspertów na niedajsiepodszyć.pl.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it. And how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Polskie Radio.
Jedynka.
Rodzina spółek Pelion to 12 000 osób pracujących w ponad 300 spółkach w Polsce, Szwecji, Wielkiej Brytanii i na Litwie. Jesteśmy liderem w branży ochrony zdrowia. Od 1990 roku dbamy o długość i jakość życia. Pracować z nami możesz w jednym z 7 obszarów.
Zapraszamy do Trójki. Od nowa.
Trójka. Program Trzeci Polskiego Radia.
Czy wytrzymasz klockowe tortury ze stoickim spokojem? Czy w twardych negocjacjach zachowasz zimną krew? Czy poddasz się dobrowolnej eksmisji ze swojego łóżka? Brawo! Test na obecność serca zaliczony. To znaczy, że ty też możesz być rodzicem zastępczym. Dowiedz się jak na testserca.pl.